to Cinema Trailer News. My name is Grace, and this will be my spoiler review for episode 6 of The Last of Us. So, episode 6, 3 months time gap. And kudos to Bea Ramsey for actually seeming a bit older and a bit more mature in her mannerisms. Now, this episode is a little under an hour, but it's so much story here, and it's fantastic. Now, this is the episode where Joe finally finds Tommy, and we open up with a flashback to episode 5. And at first, I wonder, we see Henry realizes what he's done to his own brother, and he turns the gun on himself and just hit it. Henry and Sam were not only in an emotionally traumatic situation for Ellie, but for Joe, who doesn't have that kind of love with his brother. And I think seeing Henry and Sam have that underscore what he didn't have, and kind of to think of it. All of Joe's relationship are not great. There's Tommy, and I think that starts to dawn on him in this episode when he sees Tommy having stuck on his own away from Joe. Seems to have certainly everything. He's got a wife, a child on the way, and a home. Now, this compound might look like an apocalypse in heaven, but I'm with Joe. I don't trust communists. I mean, they got Tommy to cut off communication with his own brother. Who does that? That's horrible. I could see why Joe was a little upset, and then they start taking Joe and Ellie's stuff without asking for the group. I mean, it all seems harmless and not, but it really gets you under your skin. So anyway, it was awfully cold of Tommy not to invite Joe to join him in safety. He knew what it was like out there, and I mean, he could have even gotten Joe out of Wyoming under false pretense. Like, they don't have to say exactly like, I found Utopia, come on out here. It could have been like, I'm in trouble, Joe, get here right away, meet me at this corner, far away from the communists, and then if it seems okay, I'll take you, and it'll be like a surprise. Tommy just left Joe to die, and that's so bad. And I think Tommy and Maria, maybe Maria, who got Tommy to think this way, they're giving Tommy an out for his own behavior by saying, oh, he was just following Joe. I mean, come on, Tommy, let's be real. I think Tommy to some degree realized that, which is why Joe is able to guilt him later to maybe taking Ellie. So I think it's unfair though to judge Joe for what he had done, particularly in the early days of the apocalypse. I mean, look at the very memorial in Tommy and Maria's home. Sarah and Maria's 3-year-old son Kevin both died the year of the outbreak, just 2 days apart, which just goes to show you how tough it was those early days. And there was no communist at that time. I mean, they have to survive long enough for a communist to be built. And I'm sure there are a lot of people at that communist, there's some stuff they regret, and they live around weird dead bodies which Ellie goes on them. And they're like, oh, having a bad reputation doesn't mean you are bad. Well, then why can't we use the same excuse for Joe? And not all families are great, as you can see. And you notice that The Last of Us make it clear that Joe is a leader, and so is Ellie. You can see from how she handles herself at the restaurant. More on that in a moment. And she says that maybe she inspire all the other children at the community to be less dolls and take matters into their own hands. Oh, a leader already. Good for her. So a restaurant and a bar and movie nights in this compound, and as Joe said, this place does seems to have it all, with Christmas tree and bacon, and I love that definition of having it all. Now, like what happened in the game, they offer food by Maria, and we get a shout down puppet meal, and we get what I think is a Conda from a character that passed in part 2 of the game. That could be Dina spying on Ellie when they first taken in. The girl does look like her, and it sets up a big love interest for the character in season 2. Also, not only Joe is starting to lose his edge because of all the loss and suffering, and he tells Tommy all this is because he thinks he will fail. And also, he feels like he's getting older and stuff, and then he's losing his hearing in one ear, but also he cares about Ellie, and suddenly he's worried about how much he cares about her, and he feels he's making in himself again. He's losing his edge, but again he's not processing any of this. He won't talk about this. He shuts down conversation about Sarah yet again when she's brought up by Ellie, and for a moment at the beginning of the episode he even thinks he's Tommy, to which he seemed having his first panic attack, because again he's just reached the limit of how much loss he can take. And then, even though he finally does find Tommy, he discovered that in a lot of way he has lost him, because think of Tommy's life right now. It's founded on a total rejection of Joe and what Tommy feels and tells Joe that represents. And to make matters worse, Tommy now has everything. As I said, that Joe lost a companion, a child on the way at home, and siblings often compare themselves to each other because they feel, hey, they started out in basically at the same place with basically the same tools to work with. So why is Tommy, who Joe felt his whole life he had to take care of him, suddenly doing so much better? Maybe because Maria seems to be a good person to flow, but I don't know it is perfect either. It totally different circumstances. Joe can only bring Tommy back to his side by opening up to him, basically doing what Tess did to him, to Joe, making him his dying wish that Tommy takes Ellie the rest of the way, because Joe can, again, after so much loss, is convinced that he says he will fail. So I'm sure I'm going to fail Ellie. And Ellie overhears this because she couldn't stand the movie they were watching at the camp. And when Joe comes to say goodbye, she confronts him and tells him that she's not his daughter, and then everyone she's ever known has died or left her except him until now.
Is this really all they had to worry about?
Is this really all they had to worry about?
Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt.
Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt.
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre.
Tommy knows this area.
Oh, fuck that!
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit.
I made this decision for your own good. You'll be way better off with Tommy.
Oh.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm not her, you know. Maria told me about Sarah and...
No.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me.
Everybody I have cared for has either died or left me.
Everyone fucking except for you.
Everybody fucking except for you!
So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
So don't tell me that I'd be safe with somebody else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter.
You're right. You're not my daughter.
And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
And we are going our separate ways.
Get it together. We're not alone.
Now come dawn, we're going our separate ways.
And if I say no?
Do you even realize what your life means?
Listen,
Why are you here?
I came here to talk to you.
No, why are you still here?
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
And I think this is a fundamental disconnect between the two of them. And I think Elliot does not see Joe as a father figure, but as a friend. I think about it, and she always trying to act like a grown-up, wanting to drink in the fireplace, in the camp. Now, Joe is more of a mentor to her, and she believes that someday she could become his equal. Meanwhile, Joe has always kept in arm's distance, because she does remind him of his daughter and Sarah and her dad haunting him more than ever. When he gets to the commune after he fights with Elliot during that night, he can't stop thinking about Sarah. He decides to let Elliot in to try and make a life for himself after all. Maybe he feels this is a shortcut to catch up with Tommy. He's like, I know I can immediately get what I lost by taking Elliot, right? But he doesn't realize that he's not treating Elliot like a surrogate daughter. He's clearly using her as a replacement for Sarah and transferring all his bottled up emotions from decades onto Elliot. And that's really a bad idea. And Joe let decide if Tommy or he takes her, but again, she's still a child, and Joe knows she's going to pick him. But by making her the decision, I think he feels it frees him from some of the responsibility. And to see this change in Joe is like a switch being flipped, because I think he's emotionally out of control, and I think he's yelling, and I think Elliot, she's so grateful he's being kinder to her and that he didn't abandon her, that she's just overlooked it. So in this episode, Joe confessed to Tommy that because he's losing his edge, and he's not just emotional reasons, but physical as well, like losing his hearing a bit, that kid got to the jump on him in Kansas City, and Ellie have to save him. And that's what happens here. Sure enough, someone else gets the jumps on him, and Ellie has to save him again. It's the exact same situation again from behind. However, Joe is able to take this man out pretty quickly and pretty viciously, and it's our first clear sign of who Joe used to be. And I think that he goes back to being this vicious person because he has his daughter back, and it's kind of kissing his edge again, because he turns into this crazy man who is going to do whatever he can to protect his second chance. As for Ellie, we get some great character development with her as well. And why does he push Joe so hard? I think because as soon as she sees Tommy, she's worried that Joe will abandon her, which she's so happy to hear when, and Joe is not, to discover that Tommy is married. And then there's that great conversation about their plan to do after. And the Fireflies create a cue from Ellie's bar, and Joe says that he wants to start a sheep farm, while Ellie says she wishes she could go to the moon, like Sally Ride, a great name for an astronaut. And I think this is showing you that Ellie imagines herself a hero and still haunted by the reality that she could not save Sam. Joe wants to save the ones he loves, but Ellie is still younger and dreaming, and with no one really in her life for very long, she imagines herself a hero in the grandest sense, who can save everyone, and that is why she's so determined on reaching the Fireflies. So Joe is doing this for redemption, and Ellie is doing it to be a hero. Isn't that great? I think that's fascinating. Now, Joe's maps truck, like in the early beginning of the episode, you better say the same thing as your wife, and that's a great choice to handle and getting the two out of someone. And I love the couple at the opening. What a fantastic dialogue and acting. I love what he said there. Did you tell the truth to his wife? And then he said, are you telling me the truth? Because he doesn't really trust his wife. And they convince Joe that Tommy is likely dead. And I think that's to underscore the bleak outlook on life. Remember, they abandoned civilization even before the outbreak, and look how close they are thriving in this community, because they don't want to look and to see what is out there. So that's really an interesting theme of itself, and the whole setup here seems pretty in line to what you come across in the game. This is actually written on a scene from the game that uses the same tactics, but it's way more bloody in the source material.
We're somewhere here. Exactly where? And your answer better be the same as your wife's.
You wait here. Where? The town! The town! Now you're gonna mark it on the map. And it better be the same exact spot your buddy points to.
Also, the monkeys at the university were a very nice touch, not only from the game, but also reminding us of our origins, but of course, not to the classic sci-fi apocalyptic film Planet of the Apes. So that's my spoiler review for The Last of Us. I really enjoyed this episode. I think it was so great, and I can't wait for the next episode from the DLC of the game Left Behind. They'll focus more on Ellie and Riley's story. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think of this episode? If you enjoy it or not, your favorite moments, and if you like this video, hit the like button, consider subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.